Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Really excited today when I get to talk with authors whose books have just been in my ear. I really get to just like deep dive with them on their book. And today I get to talk with Michele Borba. She is an educational psychologist. She wrote the book Unselfie, which you can see on my shelf back there. And she has a new book out called Thrivers. And I thought I had a copy here in my office. I took it home and my wife stole it, so I don't have a copy to display it, but it's a great red book called Thrivers. And the subtitle, which really, tells you exactly what's going to happen in the book, is the surprising reasons why some kids struggle and others shine. And I think right now in the world, there's so much pressure to have our kids turn out so well, whatever turning out well means. And so it can be distracting and it can make it really difficult for parents to know, what should I be looking for? What should I be trying to cultivate my children to be like? And how can I influence them in a way that makes me feel good as a parent and helps build them up into the person that they're wanting to be and destined to be as well? And Michele, if we could just start, you in the introduction of the book area talk a lot about strivers versus thrivers. And I think that's a really interesting distinction. Could you tell us a little bit about what characterizes a striver versus a thriver in general?
Let's start with a thriver. To me, it's a kid who's got that inner, I got this attitude. So when they hit the adversity or they hit the challenge, they're not stumped and quit. They find a way over it, around it, or through it. And very often they don't need the rescue to do it. They've got it internalized. I think a thriver has a sense of agency. It takes a long time to get that, but they have that
Right.
self efficacy piece. A striver is a fabulous kid as well, may have exactly the same things going, but what he's got is that he gets to the adversity and doesn't go the whole 9 yards. Very often they quit, they give up, they don't give it their all. And I think that's number one. Now, when I look at all of the science, is because they're lacking a few skills that are crucial.
Well, it sounds like, the thriver is obviously the one that we want our child to thrive. We want them to,
Sure, we do.
even when they're
Sure, we do.
babies, the thing you don't want to be is diagnosed with failure to thrive. As a newborn or as an infant, we think of that as like the babies that can't grow, okay. And that's really like the skill of infancy, like is feeding and growing and all those things. So failure to thrive is something that worries us in infancy. And then we get into the older age kids, and they're all, growing and thriving for the most part and everything like that from a medical and physical growth and development standpoint. And
Yeah.
then we really get into this age of building character. And I think that is one of the key things that you talk a lot about in the book, is these character traits and those that thrivers possess. So I guess before we talk about those traits, because I really liked in your book how you really like laid it out, like here's a plan to help develop these specific character traits. But before we talk about that, can you share a little bit about what you're seeing amongst the elementary and middle school age kids that we need a book like this, to help
Yeah.
figure out?
Phil, Phil, I've been in this educational business for almost 40 years now. And I've never been so concerned as now. And that was prior to the pandemic.
Right.
And then what happens is a crisis only amplifies pre-existing problems. What concerned me was, oh my gosh, our kids are so well loved. The opportunities are unbelievable, and smart. We're raising a smart generation. They're 4.0s or 7.3s. They're doing quite well, and actually
Right.
their IQs are even increasing. But don't tell the kid that. But they're really getting smarter than us. But the problem is their mental health is plummeting. We looked at 1 in 5 American kids was going to suffer from a mental health disorder prior to the pandemic. I was seeing this filtering down to younger and younger kids. We knew the teens were struggling, but wow, when you're looking at 5, 6, 7-year-olds with anxiety, and I'm sure you're seeing the same thing, that's something
Sure.
extremely troubling. I know that's not part of their DNA. It's that I think what we've been doing is maybe not looking the whole set of what the science is saying, that first, resilience is teachable. It's not locked into your DNA, and it certainly isn't locked into your zip code. So once I started looking at the science, it says, my gosh, this is the overlooked commodity that every kid needs to be their personal best and become the thriver. It was putting it into a book that's simple and easy, but based on science. It's got practical things, not to overwhelm the parent with one more thing, but to say these same 7 traits not only boost character, also boost resilience. But guess what? They're the same 7 traits that research says help your kid become a peak performer in the classroom. So it's not either
Right.
or. it's both that really matters. And that's how we're going to, I think, move on, get the reset button and say, this is what our kids need.
Well, your book, I will tell you, I just had to return it to the library today. I checked it out, like I have the
Yeah.
physical book, but I'm an audiobook person, and so I listen at a fast clip. I mean, honestly, my listeners will know that I kind of brag about like 2.5 times speed is my go-to, which helps me get through like 40 or 50 books a year of reading. Um, but I had to slow it down because it was all action. Like there was no fluff of like this. Like you can kind of tune out and tune back in. It was like
Oh,
the
thank
show
you.
where you have to watch every minute or you're going to miss a really important thing. And my wife found me, I had to keep running over to like write down. I'm a Post-it note guy. I write down stuff on Post-it notes a lot. So I just had to keep pausing and going finding Post-it notes so I could write down like,
Oh,
something that I needed to take away with and share with my patients and my parents and my online audience, because there was just so many like practical nuggets, and it was arranged in such a way that it's like, okay, if this month I want to work on this trait, here's the specific things that I can do for my child. So I agree with you completely that the pandemic has only worsened things that were already there. And I
mm-hmm.
used to go into the room with the 7-year-olds and the 8-year-olds and be like, yeah, I can tell that they worry a little bit, but I'm not really worried about anxiety. And now there's a lot of times where I'm truly worried that we have something that needs a lot more attention and work to help families. And it's not just the little worrier child that will outgrow that and we can help them through that, but we're having a lot more significant mental health issues. And like you said, it's trickling down to the lower and lower ages.
Mm-hmm. It's a really big concern. I think the bottom line on this too is that we spend so much time fixing it. When they get older, how much better we'd all be on if we flipped this whole thing and said, let's just stop it. Let's prevent it. Let's
Right.
create what we do know will really make a difference. We use that with the medical model, but we don't use that as much with the mental health model. And I think in all fairness, again, it's because we really haven't been given a toolkit of what does help, what does prevent it.
Right. And I mean, I think about that every day now in my practice because fortunately, we don't see the same medical issues that children faced a generation or two ago, where there's all these diseases of infancy with bacteria
Yeah.
and serious bacterial infections. We just don't see that anymore. We don't see the serious viral illnesses that are taking children away early. We have, from a medical standpoint, can focus on the kids that have very special congenital diseases or acquired diseases, but by and large, medically, we're able to prevent so much, and yet our focus is still on making sure kids are growing and getting their vitamins and all those things. But we're probably in the same time, I wish I had more time to focus on the mental health issues and the character building time, because that's the preventative health piece that's missing from the current medical model, is being able to focus in on those
Yeah.
preventative mental health strategies to complement the preventative medical strategies.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. The first thing is, first of all, thank you for saying all the compliments about the book being actionable, because that's like the greatest thing you could tell an author. That was the goal. But also to a parent, this doesn't have to be so time consuming. The goal was, yeah, give lots and lots of actionable things, but for heaven's sakes, don't do it all or your kid will never let you read another book.
Right.
Find one thing that's going to work for you and then keep weaving it into your everyday family practices. In fact, the best way to do this, we do know resilient parents raise resilient kids. So maybe what we do is we flip through it and go, what's going to help me reduce the stress? I'm going to work on it and then I'm going to teach it to my child. And we do know one of the best ways for you to learn any skill, we do this with our kids. We make them cross-age tutors in a school, because if the child teaches somebody else, they're more likely to learn it better themselves. Same with a parent. Find
So
what works
true.
for you.
That's why, so my podcast is called Raising Good Parents, because I find that if we can help parents to improve themselves, then that is, passed down through our relational experiences
Yes.
to the
Yes.
child. And the other thing that I like is, I think about from a math perspective, if I get 1% better each day in 1 year, 1.01 to the 365th power is 37 times better. And I had to look that up and Google it and make sure I was right, because I had heard that and I was like, well, I don't know if that's really true.
Oh, I'm
But
writing that one down. That is a
if
great
if
stat.
you can just be 1% better, and you don't have to be 1% better at everything, but if you're 1% better at yelling this week and you do that, or connecting with your child or asking them how their day is, 1% better in a year, 37 times better than you were. So if we can just make all these tiny incremental changes to ourselves, then we know, like you said too, that resiliency that we develop and the skills that we develop, whether or not we had them earlier in life, we can still develop those things.
Yes.
Then we'll be able to model
Yes.
that for our children, and then we probably don't have
Yes.
to do as much, active character building, because they'll just see that and they'll adopt that for themselves.
Well, and the best way to learn character anyway is by seeing somebody else exemplify it. So maybe your first question every night for you 1% is, if my kid had only my behavior to watch, what would he have caught today? That was always,
Oh, ouch.
whoa, guilt for
Yeah.
me as a mom. Once I realized the power of it, then you become more intentional about it. You find simple little, what's the one simple little thing I want to weave in and turn up, or even sit down. And what a great thing, because of the 7 traits, one of the most amazing simple ones is integrity. Well,
Sure.
here's your first piece as a parent. Pick up an index card and say, if I'm watching my kid 40 years from now, what's the values and virtues I want to see in him or her? Once you identify them, you will find dozens of ways to weave it in. You'll figure out
Oh,
which
for sure.
discipline models to do, which books to start reading, which things to start quoting, and your kid will pick it up.
Well, and I think that, I mean, the idea of the kind of self-reflection and looking at yourself too, parents want to display themselves and or feel that they have to display themselves as perfect to their child, when and then it feels to the child like, well, I could never live up to my parent who's perfect, and because they always do perfect things. Well, perhaps if we can identify those places of weakness and
Yeah.
show our child, hey, I wasn't very patient today, and I bet it made you feel upset when I got really snappy because you didn't empty the dishwasher like I'd asked you to do, and I
Yeah.
got really impatient, and I bet that made you feel bad, and it kind of made me feel bad too that I got so impatient. What do you think that I could do better next time to be a little bit more patient? If you can problem solve together and show that we're all trying to be that 1% better or whatnot, they'll probably pick up on that and say, oh, it is worthwhile to build my character skills. And it's okay that I'm not perfect, because my mom or dad is still working on being better as well.
I love next time I'll, because I think that is a thriver kind of a trait that's so simple, and all we need to do is model it. What happens is kids sometimes get stuck. So don't we all? But if you really want the kid who perseveres and keeps on going, he needs to realize that failure is an option, but it's just a matter of figuring out, so what I'm going to do next time. And that's the
Right.
greatest question to ask your kid. Okay, that's fine. So what are you going to do next time? Well, let's brainstorm what you could do next time. And for you to model it, just like you said, well, next time I'll becomes that kid's permission to know it's okay to blow it, but mom and dad are just looking for me to figure out what to do next time. And brainstorming is one of the best ways to raise a thriver. So when he
Right.
gets stuck with the adversity, he finds a way over it, around it, or through it, because he realizes there's no problem so great that can't be solved. I just got to figure out where it is in my head.
Love it. I think that is so wise, and it resets the expectations of parents too. I mean, it lowers
Yeah.
the expectations, which is what we want. We don't
Yeah.
have to have a child that never loses their temper. We don't have to never lose our temper as an adult. But next time we can probably try and do these things to avoid getting to that point, or we can recognize that in ourselves. I think that parents, their expectations of their kids are too high in general,
Yeah.
and so there's a huge delta between where their child is and where their
Yep.
expectations are, and all we're doing is saying, why can't you do this, and why can't you meet the expectations? But at the end of the day, I probably give myself a lot more slack than I give my children, and I probably give my employee or coworker or friend or colleague a lot more slack than I give my children, knowing that, okay, they're probably having a bad day right now too.
Yeah.
We can expect a little less.
Back to that, of the 7 essential character strains, that perseverance is crucial. But we do know that one of the things that helps our kids keep on going is exactly what you said, the expectations. So when parents say, oh, how do I know the best expectations? The easiest solution is, think of it as a rubber band. Your goal is to figure out where your kid is capable right now in the spelling or the soccer or the patience or the, setting the table, and then stretch him a little teeny bit every single day without snapping him, just like a rubber band. And what will
Right.
happen is he'll just keep growing, growing, growing. What we do too often is we pull too hard, we snap it, and there goes the kid's spirit, and he just feels like, I just can't do it. There goes the confidence level.
That is such a good analogy that I can just see so perfectly of slowly stretching things and slowly asking a little bit more
Yeah.
rather than why didn't you get 100% on your spelling test? You
Yeah.
need to get 100% on your spelling test. Don't you know how important spelling is? Um, if that's what we're trying to do, then we just stamp their spirit. Wow, I suck at spelling. I'm never going to be good at spelling.
Well, and
Rather than I can probably get one more better next time.
the biggest thing I'm getting hit with right now is, oh, there's so many questions from parents, but so many of them are saying my kids just hit like the COVID wall. His motivation is just like gone. I'm going, well, heck, so was ours. We're up when stress builds.
Guilty.
What's going to happen is
Right.
your motivation is going to go down. But I remember another little thing other than the rubber band. The next best tip is when you are stressed, what happens is you think you just look at the whole thing and you're overwhelmed with it. So you break it down into just like the rubber band into little manageable pieces. Example, when I was a kid, I had a terrible music teacher named Mr. White. Now, why he was so terrible is he had this one little thing, and that is he made me play the whole piece when I was 7. But if I made one mistake, even if I was almost to the end, I'd have to start all over again. So
Mm,
all I would do is sit there the entire time I was playing, getting more and more and more tense, going, I'm going to blow it, I'm going to blow it. And I obviously did.
right.
Well, I'm so glad my mother hired Mrs. Thompson because she had a different philosophy. She had a let's find the stumbler, Michelle, that one little thing that you seem to be worried about, and let's fix the one little stumbler. So we'd practice and practice the one little darn bar. And she goes, hey, you got it, now play it. And I was so relaxed and got it done. This is the same thing when the kid is so overwhelmed with the math. He's not overwhelmed with the whole thing. He's worried about that one problem or that one row. Well, let's find the one little thing and work on it. Or the soccer.
Right.
I know you're having problems kicking into the net. So let's find the one little way to move your foot a little differently and just practice that way. That may help because now the kid's more likely to endure. And a thriver just keeps on going and doesn't need trophies and gold stars in order to do so. He's got that inner motivation because he knows how to keep on going.
What are some strategies for cultivating at home that inner motivation? Because, like you said, I think that's a big problem for everybody, kids and adults alike, right now. Is motivation. I think I just read an article the other day about the word languishing, and that is the word right now of everybody is just unmotivated and kind of dreary about everything that's been going on in the past year. How can we help cultivate that inner motivation for our child?
All right, let's look at 7 strengths and let's look at what I think we fail to realize sometimes. Every parent goes, what's the one strength I need to do? And what I had my aha moment when I was writing Thrivers is to realize it's not one strength. Any one strength, when you add another strength to it, creates a multiplier effect. So it amplifies it and becomes a superpower. Let's get back to motivation. Why does our kids stumble? The first thing is we spend more time fixing and focusing in on their weakness. If you want the
Okay.
confident child, every once in a while, what you need to do is all of the research says you and me, we're more joyous when we're involved in stuff that we're good at, that we
Right.
like, that we're passionate about. It's called flow. We don't give up. We just keep going. Oh my gosh, I love it. First thing is find your kids' passion. What is their strength area? And you'll build their confidence, even if it's not math, because that's what they're struggling with, by at least realizing I got something I can go to, something that's my strength. In fact, one of the things that's fascinating about resilient thrivers, they have hobbies. I interviewed a bunch
Mm,
of kids saying, what do you like to do in your spare time? And they looked at me dumbfounded. Who's got spare time and what's a hobby? So
right.
here's your moment. You actually decompress when you're in your hobby. And it could be art, or it doesn't have to be anything you yourself as a parent like, but maybe it's woodworking, or maybe she loves art, or maybe he loves reading. First thing is find their passion. Second thing is hard to focus on that persevering when you are low in self-control. So
Sure.
go back to the attention span because each of these strengths has 3 skills that are critical. The first one to self-control is focusing. What do? Back to the rubber band. What's the longest your kid can focusing without melting? If it's 3 seconds, then go to 4 seconds. If it's 5 seconds,
Right.
go to six
Okay.
seconds. Second thing is make sure he can sleep because for Pete's sakes, you can't focus when you're out of sleep. Third is turn the TV off 5 doors down because actually your American Academy of Pediatrics says that's a no-brainer here. They're actually very distracted by outside noise. I taught special ed for years. I put cardboard carols around some kids because They kept looking outside. So do me. I got to put stuff
Right.
around me these days. Now we get to
Guilty.
perseverance. What do you do with perseverance? First, go down to doing that growth mindset model that is mind boggling. And Carol Dweck says, if you really want to stretch your kid, don't emphasize what you get. Don't emphasize you got the A. Don't emphasize the 100%. Stress the effort. Oh, you're hanging in there, sweetie pie. You didn't give
Right.
up. Good for you. Well,
Right.
yesterday you were here. Today you're here. When the kid goes, I can't get it. No, you can't get it yet, honey. You're getting it closer and closer. They've actually discovered that parents who use that model stretch the kid's persistence. The kid is more likely to hang in there, more likely to succeed, more likely to thrive, just because you're praising the effort, not the end product.
I love the word yet
Scientifically
there.
proven. Yeah,
Yep. The word
almost.
yet there is you can't do that. You haven't been able to do that yet. You can't do that yet. Rather than then I can't do that. Well, you don't have the skills yet to do
Yeah,
that. Just
yeah,
like the first grader doesn't do long division yet, but we know over time they can get to that point. And but we treat our children often like they have to have all these skills,
yeah.
because you see the other kids in the neighborhood or on social media or whatever that have this skill. Well, we haven't developed that yet. Um,
Well,
Really
there's another
powerful.
thing on that one too. If we really want thrivers, one of the correlations of a thriver that we do know is the more you practice, the more you put in the work, the more the effort, you get better. That's the growth mindset. How does that have to do with the pandemic? China just released a fascinating study on which of their kids are faring better during the pandemic. Growth mindset kids.
Sure.
It's okay. It's going to be a while, but we'll get there. I'll hang in there. That's that growth mindset, as opposed to the fixed mindset kid. I'll never get there. I can't do it. Oh my gosh. I don't have the high enough IQ. I'm not in the right class. I don't have the right teacher. I don't have the right zip code. And what happens is the kid just kind of throws up his hands and gives up. So keep stretching the effort.
I really like that. And that makes me think about how oops, hold on. My phone is ringing in my ear and it's really
Oh,
loud. That makes me think about, when we see our children struggling, we often just think, well, I need to protect them
yeah.
because
Yeah.
they can't do that. And they're going to have their feelings hurt or they're going to feel bad. When what we can do is help them, especially when we're not in the moment, help them to stretch that just a little bit. Like you can get a little bit closer to being able to tie your shoes, solve that math problem, talk to a friend on the playground that you're worried about, do those different things. Well,
Yes.
when we're not in the thick of it, then it's easier to say, hey, what could you do next time that maybe would help make that
Yeah.
a little bit easier?
Yeah. Yesterday you were here. Today you're here. You're getting better.
Right.
It just keeps going. In fact, in all fairness, sometimes we overlook how do the peak performers of the world in terms of adults get there? Practice, 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 practice. That's
Right.
how an Olympic athlete makes it. And we can share those stories with our kids.
Huge. I think that makes such a difference. We're coaching them along just the way that, great athletes, world class, best in the world athletes get coached, even though they're the best in the world.
Yes.
We can help our children out the same and we can coach them along. And we as parents can probably get coaching too to help us to feel more comfortable in that role. Even if we feel like we're at a good place, we can probably get better because we know even the
Yeah.
world class athletes that have the biggest trophy there is can still have a coach and get better.
And Phil, you use the best word. You coach, you aren't managing.
Right.
One of the things about a thriver is that they're coached, but they're not rescued. They don't have the parent lawnmowing over them or solving everything for them or helicoptering. Because once again, what does a thriver have? Agency. It means not necessarily at age 2, but that's what we're trying to do. In fact, we do a heck of a job when they're 2. They fall down. We go, you got it. It's okay. Got it.
Right.
Yay, I'm
Right.
up. And we forget to keep doing that.
Totally true.
We need to
Well,
do a lot more, you got it, as opposed to mommy will help.
or
Because
stay
every time
away.
we do
Right.
that, we got to keep stepping back and stepping back. And maybe the next thing is realizing, oh, here's our prime moment again. We're sitting in a pandemic and we've got a little bit extra time with the kid. What's the one skill that he needs to learn this week? And how do we teach a skill? Whatever the skill, I don't care if it's putting, gasoline in the car or making the bed or, setting the dinner table. It's first you show and you have the child watch so that he knows how to do it correctly. Next, part 2, do it together. So you're doing it together and he's doing it with you and you can correct together. Third is you step back. You watch him. Is there anything that if he's got it right, keep stepping back and don't
Right.
ever rob him again. And you keep doing it skill by skill by skill. That's how you raise thrivers.
That reminds me, in medicine, in our training, there is the concept, as you're learning a new procedure, say it's, putting in stitches or an appendectomy or a heart transplant, whatever it might be. See one, do one, teach one. So you
Oh, I
see them
love
do it
that.
first, and then you do it the next time, and then you teach somebody else to do it the time after that. Because if you can teach somebody else, then you have a good grasp on it. And I mean, hopefully those that are doing the heart transplants get a couple more than just the C1, do one, teach one. There's hopefully it's like C5 or C10 or something like that. But that concept of show them how to do it, show them what it's supposed to look like, and then let them do it, help them along to do it, and then have them show somebody else how to do it. I mean, that's not always
Yes.
applicable, but they could teach their stuffed animals how to fold the bed or make the
Exactly.
bed too, or something like
That's when
that.
the puppy comes in. Teach the dog. He's dying to know how to make the bed.
Exactly. Oh, well, it has been such a pleasure to talk.
You're so
Your
welcome.
book, Unselfie, I have like several copies. You can see the yellow copies on the shelf back there. I give that out to parents frequently. And your new book,
Thank
Thrivers,
you.
like it has just been so great to see that book and to see it at this moment when I think kids need it more than ever and parents need it even more
Yeah.
than kids need it, is to understand how to do those things. And like I said, the practicality of it all just really sits with me as somebody who is more focused on the actionable stuff rather than focusing in a lot on the research behind it. Is like, I want to know how to do it because I got patients that I want to tell today how to help their child persevere better. And I just need these actionable steps. So it's been really helpful to me, both as a parent and as a pediatrician in practice. So I will direct everybody to go to your website, Michele Borba with one L in Michele.com, get the book, share it with a friend, implement the strategies, make this the summer where you take on some of these skills and traits that you can help develop in your child.
Thank you. Thank you. And may our kids thrive.
Amen. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, you are so welcome. It was an honor.
Thanks for watching. Now, before you go, hit subscribe. And if you have a question, text me 402 256 0768. Keep up the good work.